Welcome to episode, I think this is 79 of Street Scene Power Hour. Hey, my name's Greg Roten. We have co-host John Lesaganich, co-host Rick Guerrera, and special guest, and we can call her a co-host for this. Let's do that.
Sure.
Krysta Sylvester, because she does co-host our Street Scene Car and Custom Bike Show. And by the time you guys see this show, our Street Scene Car and Custom Bike Show will be done, and you missed something good, I'm sure, because it's supposed to be. We're getting a lot of response.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, so we're going to get we got a lot. So that's coming up. That is already passed. It passed July 21st. But I wanted to announce again. This is probably the last time I'm going to announce this show. It's the Beaver County Car Show. It's at Woodworth Park. And it's got a Poland address. What we're doing, we want to have, it's going to be a little smaller show. We have one big trophy that we got from Youngstown Cycle and Speed for the best car at the show. But the good part about the show is it'll be from 4 to 7 at Woodworth Park. Right after that, we're showing a movie on a movie screen, and we have transmitters so you can sit in your car and watch the movie just like a drive-in. So we're going to do that right after the car show. So it should be pretty cool because I don't think anybody's really done that around here. So we want to try that. This is kind of and if we like doing that, we'll just keep doing that. So again, that is July 27th. July 27th, Woodworth Park. For the Beaver Township Car Show and Movie Night. So
that's a Saturday night, right?
It's a Saturday night. So make sure you come to that. And if you need any more information on that, armstrongstreetscene@gmail.com. So we're going to open it up. John, let's start with you. What's been going on with you?
Yeah, not much. Actually drove down to Southern Ohio, looked at a 56 Chevy. Mostly original. It was, and this is a discussion we've had in the past. It is a 4-door.
Okay.
But to me, it's still a classic. It has the
I just saw one yesterday like that. It was 4-door. It was gorgeous. I was behind it.
Yeah. This one has 265 original in it, automatic. Truly a solid car. But it's one of those cars that we discussed this before many times. It's not a patina car. These are the cars that really need to be shiny and look good. I don't want it with the patina look, and it needs a paint job. And the price is okay, but when you consider paint jobs, as we talked many times, we're talking
cheap
money.
ones, 10 grand. Cheap
10
ones,
grand.
yeah.
Start at 10 grand. So I'm looking at the car and I'm thinking, all right, I can do this. I can do interior work a little bit. Mechanical work I have no problem with. God, tacking another 10 grand on there. I don't know.
I'll give it to you for
paint
$5. I'll paint it for you for $5,000. How's that sound?
Spray cans. I usually just spray
rattle
cans.
Yeah. Even rattle cans now. I was at
paintbrush house.
Yeah. Well, whatever. So I did that.
I did that.
But
once.
I also picked up something that I really didn't need. Don't ask me why I picked it up. I'm going to have photos later on. I may have it at the show. So by the time people view this podcast, who went
another Volkswagen.
I mean, it's not. It's a.
You don't want to hear about it then.
I'm going to classify it as a pit bike. It's a mini bike, but it's a 1960 Schwinn Stingray bike. Where the guy threw out the front end.
It's a bicycle.
He put a 120. The idea was good, but the job was butcher job.
Yeah.
But he put a little 125, one of them bike kit engines on it. It looks like a little bobber. And I seen it. And here I'm driving home with it in the back of my pickup. I don't know why I bought it, but it's in the back garage. I'm tearing it down. There's some of the welds are real bubblegum welds. They're really bad on there. Yeah. I'm going to grind them down. But I picked up that. Other than that, the last show we did, that Corvette show, had the vet up to there. We had a blast doing that. And did a little cruising in the vet, but just waiting to see what deals come around. That's all.
Yep. And you know what? I want to tell the audience this. Rick and I did go up to the Greenville Heritage Days. I have been sitting on that. I've been trying to get prepped for our Street Scene Car and Custom Bike Show and this other car show. So that's been sitting on the back burner. It will be on soon. I'm having a little
enormous show. It was huge.
So we're going to have that. Rick, I'll go right to you. What's been going on with you? I think you have some big news on your Firebird.
Oh, finally! I finally got the interior to match.
After a couple of years.
After a couple of years, I finally got the paint in, and I painted the door panels, and it matches now. It looks really good.
How'd that come out? How was that, Rick? You used the vinyl
You know what,
paint?
Krista? You don't know the whole story, Krista, but I ordered a whole new interior for my Firebird.
Oh, okay.
And when the interior come in, I got most of it except for the door panels. And 6 months later, I get the door panels, and they're a wrong color. So I sent them back. They sent me another panels. They were the wrong color. They said, "This is all we got." I go, "What do you mean?" I ordered a whole new interior it's a parchment. You know what parchment is?
Yeah.
It's like a tannish gold. They did it back in 69, 70. And then so I got them from another company, and they were a little better, but not good enough. So I said, I got to paint these things. And so I waited about 3 months now to get some paint. And I got this one company out of Illinois. They matched it up, and we finally did it yesterday. And it looks good. Looks good.
That's
Looks
Good.
normal
Excellent.
now.
Good.
I feel like every time we mess with our cars, I saw a meme that was really funny. That was like someone that looked like they had been, through a war, and they said, 5 hours later or 10 hours after I told my significant other that it would only take me 1 hour to fix what I was going to fix. Because it's like every time we start looking at cars,
That's so true, though.
it's part of the sickness. We love it. But like you go out there and you go, I'll just work on this. So it'll take me an hour or so. And then, 9 hours later, you're still out there, working on it, or you find something else. It's always like, I don't know a story ever where I've worked on a vehicle or had to do something other than washing it and detailing it. Sometimes not even then, where I'm like, oh, this will just take me an hour or so.
No.
It's always long.
Yeah, the best part. The best part is, what I do. I'll be out ready to walk out of my garage, and let me go look at this. 2 hours later, I'm stuck doing this. I'm like, why did I even walk back in here? Because I knew what was going to happen. So
you know what, Greg? Let me digress. And this people watching this podcast will think, why are we talking about this? But on that same subject, I had the most simplest thing to replace, probably because there's only one water line, is a toilet, and I had to replace the toilet over the weekend.
I did the same thing.
And I started at 10 o'clock, and I got done at 6 o'clock that evening.
Yeah.
So
you have to change everything.
Oh no, none of the valves worked. The copper piping, I couldn't reach for. It was just a whole list of things. But what Krysta said, my son-in-law, we were building a Camaro one time, and my son-in-law would say to me, "Hey, let's do this. That's a pretty easy job." And I turned to him and said, "No job is easy. No job. You'll snap a bolt. You'll snap. That demon will take the wrench you were just using and hide it from you, because you never know
when you didn't move out of the same spot."
So nothing is easy, but it's what we do and we enjoy it, I guess.
My dad has a picture of me. We were swapping out an ECU computer chip in an engine, and we had I actually sliced up my hand reaching down, and I was the only one with the wrist small enough to get it down and to screw this little bolt in. And we were trying to screw it in, and it slipped out of my finger, and it went down into the pan. And he has a picture of me laying on top of the engine, just reaching down in there. You can see my leg and my butt, basically.
Yeah.
And I came out, I got it, thankfully sliced up my hand real good. It was like,
I got it. I need to go to the hospital, but I got it.
One bolt. Yeah, one bolt.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
That ting, ting, ting. Shit.
Oh, it's like, can I get the magnet down there? I can't see it.
Yeah.
No, can't.
Well,
how many sockets have you lost doing that? That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know what, John, I'm going to make you feel a little bit better, because I was in the same boat, not to bring water into this, but I had to do that. My toilet was starting to leak. So reason I had to do the same thing, pulled it out, and I realized it was leaking longer than I thought. So there was a rot hole in the floor. So it had been dripping down in the basement. Of course, not the kids would tell me that. So I'm looking, I'm going, oh my God. So I had to repair part of the floor, and then it was dripping down, and it rusted some of the duct work in the basement. I'm going, Oh man! So I had to do that, replace some of the flooring. So I was an all-day job this weekend.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I was with you, and we, this isn't a home improvement show, but we can talk about that all day long because it just nothing goes easy. But you can apply that as Kristen, everybody said, to vehicles. You get an easy job, and it just doesn't work out easy. It doesn't work.
Nothing.
And I want to emphasize, we mentioned this many times on this podcast. You can't rebuild a car in 30 minutes like you see on TV.
No.
You know how much footage they cut out of those?
Oh, I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Okay, they do the same thing with selling sunshine.
Yeah.
The fires just fall out of the sky and everything's even now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so that's why I haven't worked on my Torino at all, because I've been fixing stuff at the house. So
and one more thing before we get into the subject, you asked, we go, what I've been up to. So my wife and I, we are currently babysitting a 17-year-old beautiful dog. I love her, but she's old, so you don't know what's going to happen. We're babysitting that dog. We're babysitting a guinea pig and a parrot that hates me because my entire family is down in Naples, Florida.
Okay.
What kind of parrot is it?
One that bites. Yeah, I go.
There's always
Bites you.
somebody in a house.
And here's what's interesting. After it bites me, you know what it says? Thank you. It'll bite me when I try to feed it. Then it says thank you. And,
See,
so that's what I'm doing. Why they're down in Florida, and so that's what
you had a Quaker parrot, Rick. I know that we have one as well, but it'll sit on my shoulder and it'll bite my ear and laugh at me. It's like,
you just gotta flip its beak. That's all. Hit its beak real hard.
Mine sits there and you can hear it breathing, going, coming right after you after that. So
my son brought this Quaker parrot into the house, okay, and he goes, "It's not going to like somebody in this house." And him and the parrot and I got along perfectly. It was on my shoulder all the time. It was out in the garage all the time. It didn't like my late wife. Oh, it would attack her. It would attack her. One day I'm out
you had
in the
to
garage.
laugh at it.
Oh, one day I'm out in the garage working, okay, and next thing I know, I get a call, and it's Cindy, and she goes, "Rick, get in here! The bird's attacking me!" I just threw that thing against the wall.
Well, they are. Hey, Greg, you want to remind the listening audience this is Street Scene.
No, this is Street Scene. Yes, we always, okay. All of us are animal lovers. Krista's got her dog. We've got 6 dogs and a bird and a snake and turtles and all sorts of stuff. So
I'm right there.
Yep. And Rick just lost his dog, unfortunately, but his son got a new dog, so that's good.
New shepherd.
And and John loves animals, so we're animal lovers. And I did post something on the Street Scene Facebook page. I wanted to let everybody know, and this is a reminder that if you're at a car show and you're on blacktop, do not walk your dog on the blacktop.
Right.
Please don't do that, because if it's 80 degrees or 90 degrees outside, the blacktop's 130. Would you want to take your socks and shoes off and walk on that blacktop? The dog has bare feet. I mean, it burns it off. Don't do it.
I see it all the time down in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh gosh, especially down in Florida.
You see people bringing their dogs, and you'll see the dog, and the dog's just trying to get to the shade. And I mean, I've said something to people that I've been with have said something to people, and we're like, "Hey, I think your dog's paws are kind of hot." And they're like, "Oh, really? I didn't realize that." And I'm like, "How do you not take your shoe off and see how long you could stand on it?
Yeah.
If you can't stand on it. There's
times I want to take those people down, rip their shoes off, and make them stand there and see how it feels, because that's what the dog feels. So please take our information. If it's hot out and the show's on blacktop, please leave your dog at home. The dogs love to get out, but they don't want to be on that blacktop.
There will be no problem at the Street Scene Car and Bike Show.
All grass.
On the grass.
Bring your dog, bring your poop bags too. So don't leave it there for us to
bring all the dogs you want.
Yep, would enjoy it. So, well, let's go to our other co-host, Krysta.
Just to clean up.
Krysta, what have you been up to this?
Hello, Krysta, all the way in from Naples, Florida.
Yes. I have been working, celebrated, back in February, celebrated 1 year of my wedding anniversary, which was fun.
Congratulations.
And
she's still honeymooning.
We didn't even get the chance to go on a honeymoon, actually, because we got married And about a week before our wedding, we got a phone call from our builder that said, "Hey, we're closing on your house early." And it was like 3 weeks after our wedding. So it was like, get married, close on the house. And then we had plans to go to Italy with my family that year. So you can sort of say Italy with my family was a honeymoon, but it wasn't just us. It was, my whole family, my brother, his wife. So, who my brother and his wife are expecting a baby, which is
good.
And
good.
And
Krysta
due in August, early August. And the first thing that I bought for her, besides a Snoopy, which Snoopy's big in my family.
Yep.
There's a wonderful girl from Canfield that's called Hook and Stitched, and she does these gorgeous. Her name's Leah. She does these gorgeous little crocheted animals, and I asked if she could do a Snoopy, and she did, and it was fantastic. So Snoopy's real big in my family. So that was the first baby gift. But the actual gift, when my brother did the gender reveal, I had two things in my Amazon cart. I had a blue Maserati kitty cart or a Maserati kitty cart. And immediately when the thing blew up pink, I hit order for the pink one, and it showed up a couple days later. So she has her first car. It's a little pink Maserati.
That reminds me of what's it, Fast and Furious, when Dom had trying to give little Jack a black Charger, and he's like, "No, it's got to be a Skyline." Yeah. That's what it just reminded me of that. So
Hey, Krysta.
It's remote controlled for when they're too small, and then when they get big enough, you just hit a switch on it, and then the pedals work, and they could actually use it as like a drivable,
cool.
Car. So it's
get her off on the right foot. That's a good thing.
Right. That's right.
Hey, Krysta, I see you're sporting around Naples now in a Maserati supercar, huh?
I am, yeah. So
Which one is it?
It was kind of a twofold. By the way, I thought I'd show you guys this picture of me.
That's
I was
awesome.
in my PJs because, again, it was just supposed to be, oh, hey, let's run out here and do something real quick. But no, so I was starting to rack up miles on my Maserati Ghibli that I had. I had it since 2016. It was my daily driver. I absolutely loved it. I had a lot of work done to it. I had a tuner up in New Jersey named Enzo, best name ever.
Yes.
I did the work to it, and I did a lot of customization to it myself. And I was getting up there about 60,000 miles. And, my dad goes, I know you love your car, but I think you should really sell it and, think about getting something else. And, I thought long and hard about it. And I said, if I'm going to sell it, I better get something awesome. That's it. Because I have my Audi RS7 that was just kind of sitting collecting dust. And that's
your everyday car.
Yeah. So that has become my everyday car, which is hilarious because it's a 730 horsepower, 740 horsepower monster.
Never enough power. So what?
It's your
for her anyway.
It's a typical everyday car, daily driver.
Typical everyday car. Listen, it's your 700 horsepower grocery getter is what I call it now. But so I went out and I started working with Naples Ferrari, who I have a really great working relationship with them. And I said, you know what? Before I'm 40, I want to get a supercar. That's what I've been working towards. I was saving up my money, sold the Maserati. I said, that's it. Went to Naples Ferrari, and they are fantastic. And they pulled out 4 different vehicles for me to look at. And I had my heart set on a Ferrari, actually. And I took all of them for a ride. I loved all of them differently, the ones that I drove, but I didn't love the specs. I either didn't like the exterior color or the interior color, and I said to myself, if I'm going to spend this money, I want to love the whole car. I want to love every part of it. So I said, I'll come back next week, see what you guys, because they get cars in daily. And as we were walking out, my husband goes, you did mention that you would buy an MC20 if you could get your hands on one. They have one upstairs. And I hadn't even remembered to look for it, but they had one kind of buried up in their showroom. And it's this gorgeous white that is Maserati. Basically, their goal with it is they wanted it to be reminiscent of a glacier. So it is white with a blue cast. And in the sunlight, it just reflects like ice, basically. Yeah. Like a glacier. And I came back the next day and took it for a drive, and that was end game. That was it. So I ended up, it had 499 miles on it. So, and the color is beautiful because I love blue, I love white, and it's white and blue. So the color was great, and the vehicle just drives drives like you wouldn't believe. So, and it's a blast. So I have been driving that around, and it's just been, this is actually, well, I don't know how well you could see a picture of it, but that's,
Jealous. That's
So-
really incredible. So
it's a fun car. And it's the first engine that Maserati has decided to build all on their own. So it's called the Nettuno, and it has, they basically tailor-made it after the Formula One engines. It actually has, it's a 6-cylinder twin turbo, but it actually has 12 spark plugs.
talk about a tune-up nightmare there. That's going to be expensive.
But so far, it's had great marks. It performs really well. It's 671 horsepower and a ton more torque than the car needs, because the butt will get loose on you. If the tires aren't warm, as I've learned.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people wreck those. You know that, Ferraris and everything.
0 to 60 time is between 2.8 and 2.9 seconds.
God damn.
So,
Okay, Krysta, how fast have you had it?
There you go.
I haven't tracked it yet, so I haven't done anything crazy. I think I've gone like 140 in it, maybe.
All right. Well,
that's it.
It's a 200. It's a 200. I think it does 208 or 206. Is what the book says it'll do. Maybe someday I'll get to try it. We do have events down there in Naples where we take them out and we track them. I tracked the Audi and I went 167 in the Audi before I ran out of space and had to hit my brakes. So.
Well, I tell you what, we'll line it up. I got my stock 61 Beetle. We'll line them up and see who wins. But I'll win if you consider it the slowest car in the world. I'll win. So, but you know what? We want to break down a few topics here on this show, on this episode. And you know what? We invited Krysta to come up and talk about some stuff. And she brought up an excellent topic for us to kind of debate, discuss, complain about, compliment, or anything like that. Krysta, I want to throw it to you and you tell us what that topic's about.
Well, I mean, the last topic, I guess, that we can bring, the last one we discussed, we could bring up first, which is the difference and the way that the world is going with everything going to turbocharged engines versus your normal gasoline or supercharged engines. In my opinion, you have car companies, everybody's trying to be EPA friendly and gas mileage, which turbos do help. And, you have, little small 4-cylinder engines and they slap a turbo on it and, it gets to be a little bit faster. And not to say anything, I know some 4-cylinders that have a turbo, whether it's a single or a double, and they're pretty darn quick. I don't mind turbos. Obviously my Maserati has them. My old Maserati had them. My Audi has them. But to compare them to your traditional American muscle supercar, your supercharger / blower, however you want to refer to them, there's really nothing like that. I have an affinity for the old school. I like the true American muscle. I like the power right when you want it. The difference between the turbos is they have to spool and they're finicky. I drive in the heat all the time down in Florida and they get heat soaked. And if you're driving it hard and you don't let it cool off, you're going to get less performance. That doesn't necessarily happen with a supercharger. And, that spool time too is another thing. You have what, turbo lag is what they call it. And again, when you've got a supercharger hooked up, there is none of that. It's there.
Let me interrupt so the listening audience could understand. To simplify it, turbo off your exhaust.
Yes.
Supercharged direct engine.
Direct.
So for those listening to this, that's the biggest difference. They both are designed to provide the additional horsepower, but again, turbo off the exhaust, supercharge off the engine, and I can see some of the problems with working simply off the exhaust.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, most of the cars that I've dealt with now, it's hypercars and supercars aside, they're geared differently, but your average everyday car usually has really low power, really low torque in the lower end. And then it takes that turbo to finally kick in to give you that boost. And, it's just, like I said, gas mileage is great. You'd spend less time at the pump. Okay. But I've had turbos shut off on me when they were heat soaked.
Yeah.
It happened to me on a rally in my old Ghibli. It was a hot day. We were running the cars hard, and all of a sudden I lost my power. And not all my power, but I lost the power coming from the turbos, and it was a significant power loss.
What exactly is heat? How does that occur? What's happening?
So how that happens is they get too hot. They overheat. I mean, a turbo, it spins, exceedingly fast.
10,000, 12,000 RPM, if not more.
And that builds up heat, and it matters how well your engine is cooling and everything like that. And also you also have oil that feeds into the turbo as well, so it spins properly. And if your oil isn't getting to it, if you've got a blockage or something like that, or your filter's not super clean, it can spell some big issues. And if your turbos blow,
well, why doesn't that heat problem occur on a supercharge?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not that mechanically, and I don't know.
I can tell you.
Go ahead.
I can tell you. Well, again, you've got hot exhaust gases coming up to spin that spool.
Right.
That creates, how hot are your exhaust gases? So you've got that to contend with. The heat from the spinning of the turbine, that heat. Then the heat that comes out in the air, it's got to go through an intercooler normally. Well, the intercooler's air cooled normally. They do have liquid cooled. But again, you're trying to put all that heat down. You've got 300 degree heat from the exhaust. You got another 200 degree heat from the spool, all that, trying to cool it down through an intercooler real quick. And then once that leaves that intercooler up to your air intake, you've got that pipe, but it still builds up heat from the engine. So you can't get rid of that heat. So, with a supercharger, you don't have exhaust. It runs off a belt drive. So you're just spinning that from the engine. Yeah, it builds up some heat, but you're also pulling that cool air in. So, there's a lot of difference with that. That's how it builds up heat.
When you're describing that, I'm thinking when you want to get more horsepower out of an engine, in my mind, I'm always thinking we want to get that heat out as quick as we can. We want to exhaust that out as quick as we can. And if you think about the turbo, we're now trapping that heat a little bit. We're saying,
that's what it is.
Before we get it out, let it run through this system to give us some boost. So there's kind of a counteraction there that they're fighting against each other. So
it's a fight.
Yeah, it is.
Right, it is. And you could really tell the difference again, especially down in Florida with me being in the heat all the time. Now, sometimes if I get up and I'm out showing properties or I'm running errands and it's say earlier in the morning or it's in the evening when it's
runs great
50s. The difference.
Cool.
It's incredible.
Now that with any car, I mean, even a naturally aspirated car, supercharger, cooler air is the ticket. Yeah. I mean, you can't beat that. That's why you're after a race, they're dumping ice packs on their intake to cool that down. It helps a little bit. Or if you got heat soaking your fuel and your gas cell, you're packing that with ice, trying to cool that fuel down so it ionizes better. You want more oxygen to get into that fuel so it fires better and more evenly.
Hey guys, how about cost? Turbo versus supercharge.
There you go.
Equal? One's more than the other? How do they go?
Well,
I think it depends on the size and what you're putting in, because with turbos, much like a supercharger, you end up, depending on how big you go, you end up having to rebuild parts of the engine. So, some turbos top out just like a supercharger does as to how much PSI, how much power they can pump out. And if you're at your max, you got to upgrade to a bigger turbo. And then when you start doing that, you have to upgrade everything else. So it's a domino effect. I would say, I think when I looked at upgrading my turbo in my F-150 versus going to a Whipple supercharger, the Whipple supercharger was less money, but ever so slightly. Yeah. So honestly, I think it just depends on the motor, because I know people that have upgraded turbos on on a GTR, and they end up putting, over $120,000 into this car to rebuild it to hold up and to withstand what's going to come out of those turbos. So I don't know as many people that have taken, maybe my brother, but with a monster truck, that's different.
Yeah,
that's a different story.
Yeah,
it's a huge engine, big block. So it's not your average car engine that you're working on there. So I'm not really sure. But with turbos, some engines have one turbo, some engines have two turbos. And then
you familiar with the Formula
timing,
cars?
Sorry?
Good.
Rick?
You familiar with the Formula cars at all?
The Formula One cars?
Yeah.
Yes and no. What's
I'm
your
breaking up here. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm just saying because these are turbo. I think those are turbo cars. Aren't there 4 cylinders in those Formula One cars?
No.
I don't think so, Rick.
I thought they were 4 cylinders. No?
I don't think so. I think they're standard V8.
Okay.
Is what I think they're V8. They're still V8. Now they're high revving V8. They're not your typical 4, 5, 6,000, 7,000 RPM. They're 12, 13,000. They're internally balanced. They're top blueprint engines that can actually handle that with forged internals. So,
I was thinking they were 4 cylinders.
No, the one thing I do want to bring up about turbos, and again, I have turbo cars. I had a supercharger at one point. The reason I gear towards a supercharger, and this is a big issue, plumbing on a turbo car. And again, I have an Infiniti Q60 twin turbo, 400 horsepower. And the plumbing is insane. You got tubes running from the turbos. You got your exhaust running up the turbos. You got plumbing running down the intercooler, out of the intercooler, back up the intake. I mean, there's a plumbing nightmare. My daughter had that 01 Beetle with a turbo 1.8. I hated that car. It was just a nightmare. The plumbing involved in that. Versus a Whipple supercharger, you're putting that on, you're putting the hat on the intake, you're putting a belt drive system on it, boom, you're done. That's what the beauty of a supercharger is.
Yeah, you're probably right about that as well. I gotta agree. I mean, I've heard more issues with people with turbos than I have with superchargers.
Between the heat soak with the high spinning and the oil and all that heat in a turbo, they wear out faster. And supercharger or even a blower, you've got the nylon ends on the blower spindles. I'm trying to think of the word for it. You have to replace. That's not that bad. So I'm not sure about
let's go for the listening audience and those that don't know much about these. Let's go to the terminology. We have turbo, we have supercharged, and then we have a blower.
That's just slang term for a supercharger.
Exactly. That's
Roots blower.
Okay.
Right. So a blower could reference a turbo or a supercharge.
No.
Only a supercharger.
Okay. All right.
Here's the deal. The blower, you see this typical old school blowers of the big blocks. They stick up right out of the hood.
Yeah,
You've got the scoop. Those big Whipple, or those big like 671 blowers. They're huge. They're heavy. The beauty of the Whipple supercharger, it's compact. It looks like a turbo. You put it on, it's about this big, but it spins incredibly fast. And you can put that right on. You could do all your pulleys, your belts, and put that right on the front, and put the hat right on, and put a belt on it. You're done.
I guess the difference is when I'm looking at a car and I see I see a Whipple supercharger car or truck, and then I see somebody with a blower on it that sticking out the whole thing. I'm gonna be like, look at that car with that blower on it, and then I'm gonna look at the one with the Whipple supercharger and be like, look at the one with the supercharger on it. But technically, it's both. They're both superchargers.
They're both a forced air.
Just one is, to me, one is more in your face. A blower to me is like what you see on the top fuel dragsters, the funny cars, the old hot rods, that whole thing. Dom's car and Fast and Furious, that type of stuff.
So another advantage.
Those are the things they strap on and blow up.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the fun part.
Another advantage, and as you get older, and Rick will agree with me. Our main goal as old car guys is to look cool.
Is to wake up in the morning.
Cool. Yeah, wake up in the morning and look cool. So the high-rise blower, I mean, that jumps out at you. That's that's a hot rod right there. So that's kind of cool about that.
Yeah.
It's a cool, and you just, again, down in Florida, you don't see those that often.
No.
Mostly the hypercars, the supercars, and the the superchargers that are around. You don't see them here, but you don't see them. And that's another sound. That's another thing too. Is the sound difference?
Oh, the whine.
that whine that you get.
That supercharged, nothing like a Hellcat or something like that, or a Mustang with that whine. I mean, it just makes you,
You know, when I was younger, I didn't have money for a supercharger. I used to let the fluid drain out of the power steering to get that whine.
Oh yeah, well,
So
that
I'm just surprised.
Or if you drive an older Ford,
Yeah.
that's just natural.
I had an 89 Thunderbird with a supercharger in it.
Now there you go, Rick.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about how did that act? You know, how did that
Very
act?
good. I loved the car. It was fast enough for me, maybe not for Krysta, but for me it was.
But you know, the one thing about a turbo, the difference, like Krysta said, the turbo you got turbo lag. You got to wait for that to spool up and then hang on. Okay, great.
Yep.
I'm a torque
It would
guy.
kick in, I'll tell you that.
I love torque. Give me that boost at the bottoms, pin me in that seat. So what Rick wants to do, pee your pants when you're going down the road.
Yeah, I want to go so fast, Chris. I want to pee my pants.
You get a 671 blower on a big block V8.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like that torque. It'll just pin you to that seat and you can't breathe. And that's the best part of it. Go ahead, Rick.
Here's a fact check. Okay, I just looked it up. A Formula One engine has 6 cylinders arranged in a V configuration at 90 degrees with a 1.
Well, you broke up there, Rick.
Oh.
Okay,
Yeah.
what part did I break up on?
We got it. It's a 6-cylinder, so you were not right.
Okay, a Formula One engine has a 6-cylinder range in a V configuration at 90 degrees with a 1.6 liter displacement and a turbocharger.
So, okay, so there you go. 1.6 liters, really small. That's probably why they can.
I was thinking it was a 4 for some reason. Yeah,
that's news to me because I'm not into Formula One. I don't know much about it at all. So I guess I'm always thinking of NASCAR.
They're only like 20. No, Formula One cars are only like $20 million a copy. So
no, that's easy. It's not
several million a weekend every time they run. So
yeah,
what's that?
Several million a weekend every time they run.
Man, you got to have those sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, though, here's something else that I like to point out about turbos versus superchargers is depending on the configuration of the car. Sometimes turbos are kind of an interesting creature because they're capable of putting out so much power, and most of the time they're detuned when you first get the car. A really good example of that is actually my RS7 and the new M platform BMWs. Take their transmissions aside because they're just incredible transmissions, but they are twin turbo and they are detuned when you pull them off the lot. And with very minimal money spent, I know what I spent on my Audi to take it from 648 horsepower to 740, and it was not what a supercharger would cost me.
Okay.
So that was taking the stock turbos that were detuned, and then simply I tuned the vehicle, so I changed the ECU program in it. I have an intercooler, which I actually did not have to do. I just did it because I wanted to keep everything cool, a larger intercooler. All I had to do was the tune and the downpipe. Didn't have to do the intake that I did and didn't have to do the intercooler. So with just a tune and a downpipe, it shot me up over 100 horsepower.
Wow, amazing.
So depending on depending on the platform, and like I said, the new BMWs that are out there, the new the M2s, the M3s, the M5s, the M8 competition. I mean, they are stupid fast to begin with when they come out of the box. But with a downpipe and a tune, literally, these people are putting out between 100 and 125 extra horsepower like that.
Amazing.
What are we talking in the BMW? Is that a V8? Is that a V8? They're not using that straight.
So the M8 is a V8. Yeah, it's a twin turbo V8.
Okay.
It's a similar engine, actually slightly larger than what I have in my Audi. And I took one, my husband's father just purchased one, and we took it for a rip the other day, and this is detuned. This is out the box, nothing special done to it yet, but it's a twin turbo V8 and it moves, and all you need is, my husband's trying to talk his dad into doing it, is a tune and a downpipe, and with that he'll be over 100 extra horsepower.
Wow. Now, how much?
An interesting creature. I can't hate on them. I just don't love them as much as I like your.
You're right. anything that builds power is awesome. So let's face that. What they're doing with the 4 cylinders and turbo is unbelievable to me. I still can't get a grasp on that. You've got a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder. You're throwing this turbo and tuning it, and they're pulling 300 or 400 horsepower out of it. I still can't wrap my head around that because I'm an old school guy from the 80s that grew up with 90 horsepower in a 4-cylinder, and you thought you were the cat's meow because you just blew off a Chevette. But it's amazing. So anybody else, we can move on to the next subject. We beat with this one to death. My
Beamer's a straight 6 with twins.
Yeah, so there you go. You got twins, but you got that turbo lag in there, but it's still scoots. Better hang on. Yeah. So like that Q60 we have, it's just, you better hang on as soon as you hit it. It's like, okay. And then it's just kicks in and you're just like pinned to the seat. So let's move on to the next subject. We've got a couple other ones, but we want your comments. So if you got any input on this, armstrongstreetscene@gmail.com will address it in our next show. So before I jump in here, any other subjects you guys want to bring up?
Well, I think you talked about, kind of the world of the hypercars, the electrics, and the hybrids. I could actually start on that because I had a really interesting meeting down in Naples. The Ferrari Club, again, we do all kinds of events, and we were invited to a Tech Talk Tuesday where we met with some top mechanics around town, and we were at the Ferrari dealership actually, and they talked about how to treat and maintain your hypercar or your hybrid, for example. So a hybrid is something that's half electric, half gas. When I say hypercar, that's also electric, half gas, but it's a supercar. It's an exotic. So that's the difference between your Prius versus your 596 GTB Ferrari that they just came out with. So, and that's a hypercar. It's half electric, half gas. So anyway, long story short, we sat around, everyone voiced their opinions. There's a lot of people down in Naples that have the SF90, which is a 1,000 horsepower hypercar that Ferrari has made, and the 596. And they had a lot of questions because these batteries are different. They're big. How do you charge them? Do you plug them in? When do you plug them in? What happens when your power goes out? All that. And it's a whole nother world with these things. And it was really funny because at the end of the conversation, and I have to say, I'm just not a hypercar girl. I know they're powerful. I know they're really cool. If you gave me an SF,
1,000 horsepower,
I'd take it for 1,000 horsepower. Absolutely. And they're monsters. But someone asked from the crowd, they said, so, if you guys are still, how do we really maintain these? Like, how do we know that the battery is healthy and that that we're doing everything that we're supposed to do? And literally one of the mechanics went, we're figuring it out.
We're figuring it out.
They don't know themselves.
We're selling this stuff.
And everyone that was there kind of was like, because, in some cases, yes, you could have a Prius where it's a lesser expensive vehicle. You plug it in and you do what you're supposed to do, right? And then you have Teslas, which are all electric, and you plug them in and you do what you need to do. And then you have something like an SF90 that's going to run you between the high sixes all the way up to $900,000, sometimes $1 million for this car. And the mechanic is literally looking at you going, well,
we're going to leave it up to our customers to figure it out.
And they literally talked about, if you have these things plugged in and you have a power outage, someone actually suggested putting a Christmas tree timer on your electrical outlet. And it turns on and turns off because supposedly if you lose power at some point in time, the Christmas tree timer will still work and it'll still turn off and turn on and charge and charge and not charge, charge and not charge, because that's what you're supposed to do with these things. But I mean, everyone was just sitting there exactly what you just did, Robert.
That makes no sense to me.
Everyone was doing the same thing. They were like, when I left, it didn't make me want to buy a car with a battery like that, where they're still figuring it out. I'm a naturally aspirated. I want the gasoline. I want not naturally aspirated because I have turbos, but I want the gasoline.
Yeah.
Our last show, Krysta, we talked about the shade tree mechanic and the do-it-yourself guy, which our show's all about. Your discussion there will never be a do-it-yourself guy on a hybrid.
No,
you're not parking that thing in the backyard and popping the hood and doing some work to it.
Unless you change batteries.
I thought the hybrid charged itself. You had the engine, and then you had the battery.
But when you're not using it, there's so much energy getting pulled from the batteries. There's so many computers in these new cars that are running all the time, even when the car's turned off, that you are suggested to plug it in whenever you're not driving it. If you're not driving it every few days, they want you plugging it sits.
You're talking the big buck cars here. You're talking like the Ferraris and the Maseratis and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And well, actually, mostly the big buck cars are doing it because they have, maybe it's more computer systems that are running in them than regular, but it's I can't get with it. I just,
it's, and my buddy has a Honda and he loves it. It's a hybrid and he's really honestly had no problems with it. But here's my take on that is, you've got the supercars that run at a ton of power, a ton of accessories. There's going to pull more power. It's going to pull more battery power. You've got all the goodies, the heated seats, the cooled seats, blah, 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 blah. It's pulling power from the battery. Now, if you got a Prius, you don't have that much power. You're just day to day. So it's probably going to be a little more dependable in the long run. Now, let me put it go ahead, Rick. I'm going to let you go.
Okay, I'm just saying, like the lower end cars with the hybrids, you don't have to charge them. Okay, I'm talking the Ferraris and all that. You have to charge.
My buddy does not have to charge his Honda.
He's got a Toyota. It's a hybrid.
And
you don't
I
have
think
to charge those.
Some of them don't.
Cars you do.
But
I've never heard of that. You have to charge a hybrid.
But again,
I guess you have to plug them in, not to charge them necessarily, but to keep the health of the battery.
Maintain them is
the
of
health the battery.
Yeah.
Kind of like a trickle charge. Kind of
yes.
Trickle charge, right? Exactly that. And it's funny because, like I said, it's.
Let me put it to you this way. I get to the point with, electric cars have been around forever. Okay. They've tried to bring them in. Remember the Honda Insight? Remember that one came out?
Since the early 1900s.
Yeah. Well, the Honda Insight came back in the 90s. Okay. And it did well, didn't sell well often. Prius obviously is one of the best selling electric cars there is. But my point is, if you're going to, like Tesla, let's use Tesla, for example. Let's throw them under the bus. Like I said, I'm a gas guy. I want gas. I want ICE engines. That's what I'm going to be like. I'm not going to change my mind because when I go to a gas station, I want to take 5 minutes. I'm going on a trip from here to Florida. I want to fill up my car in 5 minutes and go. The last thing I want to do is wait in a line for a charger for an hour. Sit another 45 minutes for my damn car to charge to get 250 miles out of it to charge. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that ever.
They say about 20 minutes to charge them.
Okay, I don't want to wait 20 minutes.
Yeah, but listen.
And then when you get batteries, okay, how much does Tesla batteries? They're going to quit. The batteries are going to die at some point. And then when you have to replace them, it's $15,000, $20,000 to replace these batteries.
Yeah.
Forget it. I'll go out. I can replace an engine. If my engine blows up, I'll get another one for $5,000. Let's face it. No, I'm not doing that. And
as we progress into this, and NASCAR just came out with an electric car.
Oh, God.
I saw that. Yeah,
they just introduced the electric car. But so we're moving towards there. Whether it'll be all electric and we won't see the combustible engine anymore, I don't know. But I was also reading an article, and those of us who drive back and forth to Florida, I think it's in the Carolinas or somewhere, they now have that one lane to the left that's called an express lane. They charge you a couple bucks.
I drive that.
Yeah, which is kind of cool, which is really nice because you're passing up this line of traffic that's stuck and you're going. Well, when I read this article, I thought of those express lanes. They're now coming up where they're putting a charging system in the roadway itself. So when you drive on it, it'll charge your
charges
electric
the
car up.
I saw,
How
yeah.
efficient would that be,
I
though?
read
Well,
something on that
I'm
a
just
while
saying
ago.
what because they're questioning the same questions we have. People don't want to sit there for 4 hours. If that really comes true, I mean, that would be unbelievable. You see, you got to charge your car, you get over into that charging lane. And again, we're talking George Jetson stuff.
Yeah.
But they're thinking about
Sure.
it, is what I'm getting at. They're thinking on how
Not
to
in our
address those
lifetime, right?
concerns.
You know, back a couple years ago, before Fisker went bankrupt, I think the first time, because I think they're going bankrupt again.
Mhm.
They had made the Fisker Karma, and
Yeah.
the roof of it was a solar panel,
There you go.
and that was to help charge the car. And I think that was a really great idea. And I feel like, and I know nothing of electric or anything like that. I was not a mathematical person. I was an art major. I was right brain, left brain stuff, not my forte. But
Thank you. Same way.
what
I
I
know.
will say is I wonder if someone has thought about or has been trying to figure out or has figured out how to implement a strong, like a solar panel for the roof of a vehicle that can really charge while you're driving. As long as
Yeah.
you're in the sun, it's charging.
What I can't,
That was
you
a
know,
great idea. It just didn't, that particular one, I believe, didn't produce enough power to really charge you for that much longevity. But, you know, you got to wonder, like, is there a way to get one that would? Because that would make more sense than tearing up or creating an entire road system.
It would.
And what happens when it goes bad? What happens
Yeah.
if,
you know, what's the maintenance cost of that road system is going to be the
Yeah.
question. Now, the question is there, you know, what I can't understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, you've got all these cars that they charge. You're going down, you're spinning parts going down the road. Can't you put a stator type thing on all four wheels to recharge those batteries, or do they do that already?
well, there's a lot that do it when you hit the brakes. I know there's a lot
Okay.
of them, but when you hit the brakes, it does throw in a charge.
They charge, yeah.
Yeah, I forget. There's quite a few actually hybrid cars that do that I'm aware of, and maybe all electric ones too. But that's another thing too. You know, that's another idea.
Yeah.
Well, as we're
The
talking,
Toyota's like that. My
Yeah,
son's Toyota.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. You hit the brakes and it
You
charges.
hit the brake and it charges, yeah.
But how often do you hit the brakes to charge it? You know, is my question.
every time
Would-
your battery goes low,
Yeah.
just
Or
slam those brakes on.
if you're
matter
going
where
down,
you're
if you're
at.
going 70 miles an hour down the highway and you got four wheels spinning
Right.
at 70 miles an hour, if you have a stator in those, do charge those batteries at the same time. You've got centrifugal force doing that. You've got friction, which will make electricity. And now, again, correct me if I'm wrong. Email me at armstrongstreetscene@gmail.com. And if you know how these things work, please let us know, because we're just throwing this off the cuff. Maybe they have a solar car. I mean, great idea.
Greg,
The
you're not.
sun's free.
You're not. You know, Krysta, are you familiar with Super Blonde?
Yeah.
The girl Super Blonde, and she has all those exotic cars. They have cars out there. I've seen her with all solar panels on it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all it is.
Right for those,
And,
us normal folk.
I might put,
and the cost of your house times 12.
Yeah.
Those cars.
Yeah. Well, and
so
that's
sure.
Yeah.
It's just like a prototype for the
Yeah.
future. They're working
So I
on,
want to see a car mounted on the back with a big windmill back there, like those
yeah. We'll just put a speedboat,
big,
just
big
a
turbine
big-
back there. Yeah, just going
Yeah.
around. I don't know. I'm with the group. I'm not a electric car guy. I don't. But I'm somewhat
You know,
pragmatic. I know
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's
it's
gonna
going to happen
happen.
Here's the
eventually.
one thing about electric cars is, again, we go back to power. It's instant. I mean, there's no spool, there's no waiting, there's nothing. You stomp on it and it goes. And actually, as a matter of fact, and I wish that like, is this video shown? Do people see this, or is this just?
Yes, the video is shown.
So hopefully the people that are watching this can appreciate this as much as I did. My license plate on all of my cars is never second. It's been that since I was 18. It does not mean in racing. I would be a fool to think I was the fastest car on the road all the time. It means to never settle for second, never put yourself down. But that being said, it always spurs someone at some point to try and race me or to blow past me and show off how much horsepower they have. Anyway, I was pulling out of my neighborhood down in Florida, and I see this Tesla behind me. and he's coming up and slowing down and coming up and slowing down. And he blows past me, right? Blows past me. Stop sign. And I laugh because I know why they did it. And, and of course they have to show how fast their Tesla Plaid was, which if any of you know about the Tesla, they're very fast. Comes to the stop in front of me. It's a stop sign. And I look up and he's got a little son. The driver has a little son and he's just back like this, just looking out the rearview window. and I thought to myself, this evil thought, I went, he's going to face plant. And sure enough, the driver of the vehicle stomped on it. Impressively, the back end of this Tesla Plaid squats. It takes off, and the little kid goes, right
you should have just pulled your phone out just for that one. I would have died.
Because I knew he was going to do it, and I thought, is he going to do it? And he did it. And this little kid just had no prep time at all. He was just like this, and then bam! Good job, Dad. Nice job.
Did you beat him?
I wasn't racing him. We were on a single lane road. We came up to a stop. Okay. And after he flew past me, we hit the stop sign, and he thought, let me show off one more time, and just pounded it. And sure, it was great. That
I don't think you could have beat them. That's the point. They are fast. Don't get me wrong. Those things are quick. But,
so that little kid got a nice dose of it. Great, you showed off. Now, like I said, that instant power that those electric cars have. That little kid learned it that day. His face also learned it. It had a nice meeting with the back window of the car.
And boy, he was yelling at his dad. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Oh my God. So let's wrap up that subject. Let's wrap up this subject. Anybody else have anything to add to it? Rick, you do, obviously.
Yeah. Just something. I just wanted to ask Krysta, how did you get involved with the Ferrari on the 5th?
Oh, Cars on 5th. A lot of people.
Is that what it's called? Cars on the 5th?
It is, but a lot of people call it Ferraris on 5th because number one, we have one of the largest showings. But number two, the Ferrari Club is actually one of the biggest drivers between putting it together with the St. Matthew's House, which is who all the donations go to. The Ferrari Club is kind of the people that put it together more than anything else. So it makes sense.
It's always the first.
It's the first weekend in February. First weekend in February. Vehicles come from all over the country, plus they come from Canada and places like that. This past year, we actually had the owner of Hennessy show up with his one Hennessy. And it was, everyone just stopped what they were doing and watched this thing pull in. And it sounded like nothing that you've ever heard. It's something all on its own. But every year they have incredible vehicles. This year we also had, was it this year or last year? It might have been last year. There were 4 Conus eggs. Most people don't even know what a Conus egg is, let alone there were 4 of them there, which they don't even, they make, production worldwide. So it's just a heck of a show because you get all of the car clubs. You'll get Porsche, you'll get Ferrari, Lamborghini, Audi, Corvette, you'll get American Muscle. You'll get, and they come out in full force, and all of Fifth Avenue down in Naples is shut off, including the side roads. And you have, I forget what the number was of vehicles, but I do know that last year we raised over $2 million in a three-day span that went to.
Wow. That's incredible.
As a matter of fact, the Ferrari Club always has a VIP tent, and they always bring in some specialty vehicles. And this past year, and this is what's amazing about the area, is people respect the cars that come there. They respect the area. They respect the cars. And there was a $48 million Ferrari that was way back.
48. Wow.
It was back. It's from, I get confused with the years, but it was one of the old racing, where they had no seatbelt and a helmet was one.
Probably 60s, early 60s.
Yeah, 60s, I was going to say.
It was one that was from the track,
those were badass.
in its integrity. And it had a little rope in front of it. That was it. And no one messed with it. No one touched it. And I looked up what it was worth because it was part of Meekum Auctions had it, and they brought it there to put it on display, the Meekum family. And when I saw the price tag on it, I was like, "Oh my god!" You know,
Oh, 48
That's a
million.
museum piece. You don't drive
and
that. That's a museum
you
piece.
see stuff there that's just incredible. I got involved just from finding out that it was going on, and then my dad and I, who my dad just walked into the room and is waving, but my dad and I, who we go to car shows all the time, when I first moved to Naples down in 2015, I heard about the show. We went to it and fell in love with it, and we've gone ever since. And then since we're members of the Ferrari Club, we get a little more involved. And the last couple of years, I've been the trophy girl, and I've gone around and given trophies to the different car clubs for, you know, the driver's choice for the vehicles for the different car clubs. But it's if any of you ever get the chance to come down, it is well worth coming down the first weekend in February for Cars on Fifth. And as a matter of fact, this year we heard that Jay Leno might be making an appearance.
Nice. And that's somebody that is well worth to go see is Jay Leno.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That's on my bucket list, going down to see that.
You can get flights so cheap. Spirit, Breeze, Southwest. You can fly any of those, and you can get down there. You can even fly into Punta Gorda. Punta Gorda is like driving here to Pittsburgh Airport. It's 45 minutes from Naples. And you could fly Allegiant, nonstop flight. You're there in 2.5 hours. It's the easiest flight. So get down there if you can, because I'll tell you what, it's worth it.
My brother lives in Bonita Springs, so I wouldn't have any problem at all.
I was going to say, you've got a perfect excuse to go down there, because you can.
Sure, I almost made it, not this past year, but 2 years ago. Come this close, and
I'll come this year.
I don't, that's when I realized you were involved with that, because I looked it up on the internet and then I seen you passing out trophies and everything. Yeah. I said, how the heck did she get involved with that?
They just asked me to do it, and I said, absolutely, be happy to do it. And my dad, goes and takes pictures, since he's a part-time for fun photographer, and he gets the images and everything. So it's fun to be involved no matter what. I mean, and usually the day afterwards, there's a big rally that goes out to where St. Matthew's House is located. And we actually get to see where they house people that they're trying to help rehabilitate and get back into the world. And it's really neat and humbling to be a part of that, to help such a great cause, really.
What do you think the monthly payment would be on that $48 million one? If somebody wanted
I don't think they'd even finance you for that.
Cash, man.
You know how much money
cash. That's cash there.
Yeah, that's a cash deal.
So a couple years ago, there was a specialty Ferrari that a gentleman owned and brought to show in the VIP section, and it was worth, I think, 20-some million. And a gentleman offered him what it was worth in cash.
Wow.
And he went, no. And he didn't sell.
Those people pay cash.
Must be nice. I'll take one of those millions. Yeah. I'll take 500,000. I'm good with that. Yeah,
The world is wide. You never know who you're going to meet, what people do, and I'm always amazed by. And you know what? I'll tell you what. Some of the most affluent people that I've ever met down there are the most humble. They're the most down-to-earth, humble people. You wouldn't even know that they do what they do or have what they have until you really start getting into a conversation, and you realize they treat you. My very first real estate broker told me, she goes, no matter what people do, no matter how much money you think someone has, they still wake up every day and they put their pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time.
Yeah, that's the truth. They're just people. We're all just people.
Yeah. I don't know him personally, but on interviews, I think Jay Leno's sort of like that, sort of a humble guy, and can talk to anybody with any car. I kind of enjoy his videos online and so on. But
maybe we can get him as a guest on Power Hour next time. Yeah, I'm sure he'd drop everything to come on our podcast, right?
I got a picture.
Well, I think the car culture as a whole, I rarely meet people in the car culture that are snobby or stuck up. Yeah. You might have someone every now and then, but most of the time you really, and I that's one reason why I love being such a part of it, is because most people are humble. They have the same passion that you do. And, if you're open about it, you learn things, but most people are really genuine and just cool to be around. They really are.
That's what's cool about street scene, man. People just love their cars, and they're just the greatest people in the world. The car
people love to talk about their cars. It doesn't matter who you get. And Rick will contest to this, and so will John. You get somebody in there, I don't want to talk on camera. It's like, Rick, you guys warm them up, and all of a sudden you can't get them to stop talking about it. And that's what we like to see around here. We got about 2 minutes here. 2 minutes here. I just wanted to say, Krysta, if you don't know Krysta Sylvester, she has been involved in the car community ever since she was probably a baby. So
ever since she lost that little nut down in that car, that little
trying to find that. She's still trying to find that. She's still got a tap on the car, trying to find where that nut is that's got that got lost. So, you know what? We're going to wrap up the show, but I want to remind
Krysta.
you. Yep. Remind you again, the Beaver Township Car Show at Woodworth Park, July 27th is 4 to 7 is the car show. Right after that, we'll wait till dark. We're going to have a movie. It's going to be Herbie Fully Loaded. I don't know who thought of that one. Oh, that'd be me. But
you're going to bring your love bug, right?
It's got to be a kid's movie. We're going to have children there. We got to have a nice, clean movie. Otherwise, it'd have been Gone in 60 Seconds or Bullet or something like that. But we're going to have Herbie Fully Loaded. So kind of a fun movie, and it'll be like a drive-in. So make sure you stop out for there. And thank you for everything. And for John Lesaganich, Krysta Sylvester, Rick Guerrero, my name's Greg Roten, and we will all see you
down the road.